Woods Police, Grosse Pointe Woods Police came to my sister's house where all three of the kids lived, knocked on the door and said, "Your mom's missing." And the kid said, "Why do you think my mom's missing?" He said, "Because her car's at St. Paul's Church." Well, the kids know that the church just let out, and my sister would leave her car there all the time, or I would, depending upon who wanted to drive.
But the part that stuck with you guys was the fact that it wasn't JoAnn's car. It was registered to Michelle.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, right away, Michelle said, "Why do you think that?" And they said, "Because of a silver Lexus is there." And she said, "Well, that silver Lexus is in my name. So why are you here and why do you think my mom's missing?" So myself, Kelly, Michelle get in my Hummer, my truck, and we're driving down Lakeshore because they said she somehow was in the water in front of St. Paul's Church where her car was. So as we're pulling up, we see like helicopter and 20 cop cars, fire trucks, and that's when I said, "Holy shit, they staged a crime scene." Which, that's exactly what they did. And that was all done by Dan Jensen, Chief of Police for the city of Grosse Pointe Farms. And through depositions, what we have found out, Bill and Tim Matouk are great friends with Dan Jensen. That's why that would happen.
Yeah.
So right away I knew we all thought something wasn't really right. And the fact that they said that was my sister's car when it was Michelle's, well, that's the first mistake that they made of many.
Yeah. So where are we standing right now? Where are we?
We're in front of Grosse Pointe Academy, which is just to the north of St. Paul's Church, where they said her car was abandoned. So here's the main thing. I said, "Well, why do you think that she's in the water?" They said, "Well, we followed footprints." Well, Liv, the pavement is exactly what it is today. It's dry pavement. There's no snow. So why would they think that there's footprints going to the water when it's dry pavement? You have 4 lanes of traffic and then a turnaround. There was no snow on any of it. So why would they think that there were footprints going to the water? That was right away I thought, holy shit, this is a totally staged crime scene. And sure enough, it was. So then they said, yeah, her footprints are on the median just before you go into the water. They were size 14 footprints, and they were from the cops. There was 10 cops on the side of the next to the road going into the water. Yeah, there was snow on the grass, but not on the 4 lanes of dry pavement. So that's where they made another mistake. There was no footprints going in. How could you know there was footprints when there was no snow on the ground? So none of it added up. They made many mistakes. Then we find out the Coast Guard was called like 2 hours before she even was supposedly even went to church. So none of it added up.
I think what's important to note, though, is today it's super windy. And it wasn't windy at all the day that JoAnn supposedly went missing and walked into the water.
There was no wind.
There was no current, no wind. We have all the paperwork, all the documentation. So show us, where did you guys pull up at? Where did you guys park?
Right here.
Yeah.
Pulled my truck up right here. I left it on the street because they closed off the road.
And the Lexus was where? Kind
of like where that second car is, where she would never park there. They took her and then they swung the car around and parked it there. She would never park there.
Because originally she wasn't parked there.
She would always park at the same spot down where like that third car is.
Okay.
Way far west. So that's the other thing that didn't add up. She would never park her car that way.
So they're saying that she parked the car here. There was no footprints on any of this pavement here. She walked across this median here 4 lanes of traffic. You want to go over to the water side and let's take a look at everything?
Sure.
Which this road, for people who aren't from here, this road's busy. I mean, there's people driving down here.
But the fact that they said that they saw footprints going to the water, it's dry pavement. What footprints could they possibly have found?
Yeah.
And then they said there was snow here on the median grass.
All of this was contaminated.
But there were 10 cops walking around back and forth with size 14 shoes.
Yeah.
So the whole thing was staged. The whole crime scene was all staged.
What's important to note, though, too, is what we're seeing now is not what was there then. All this has been redone.
Correct.
There was no current, no wind current. We're having a really windy day today.
Now there was zero current that night. And then the water was super low then.
Yeah.
And as someone told me yesterday, she would have had to walk out 4 football fields just to get up to like 3 feet.
Yeah.
So none of it made any sense.
And then the items that they found, they never tested. There was a scarf that was found on the median.
And then they gave it away.
Yeah, it's given away.
Everything that they possibly could to dispel the facts of finding out really what happened to JoAnn Matouk Romain, they either destroyed or, you know, they just didn't cooperate in any way possible. What we've been trying to do is to solve it. The people that have tried to make sure that we never solved it are the people that are involved in the murder. And that's Bill and Tim Matouk, Dan Jensen, Chief of Police at Grosse Pointe Farms at the time. It all makes sense.
Now, what do you think the reason was that they killed her? Why kill your sister? What?
Something going on illegally at that party store at 8 Mile and Mac. And why is it that I talk to my sister 10 times a day? She told me everything. When Michelle dropped her off to go see Bill Matouk at the party store 5 days before she was taken, she came out of there a different person, and she wouldn't tell me anything that she saw or talked about with Bill Matouk. That's a sure sign that whatever he told her, whatever she saw, is the reason that they took her.
Yeah. What do you think about your brother Bill and his whole persona of not hanging up a billboard or helping hang up a poster or how is his persona and his actions during the time that she was missing? Because you were here.
The fact that, what happens over time, Liv, is that you see who does what.
Yeah.
And the fact that I've been flying these planes around saying, Bill and Tim Matouk, why won't you take a polygraph test? That's a sure message. Like, why won't you take a polygraph test? It's your own sister.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Matouk, it's your own cousin. Why won't you take a polygraph test? That's the first sign for sure that they're involved.
Yeah. So what do you think about when people ask you and they say, oh, John Matouk had bad business dealings, or John Matouk, your name's been tossed around to tear apart your credibility. Where's your mindset with that?
So because 2008, the whole country, if you were in a real estate developer, everyone had problems. So it was just another reason, another alibi to just blame it on me. And if you notice through the years, first they said she committed suicide. Then they said she committed suicide because of me. Then they said she was murdered because of me. Then they said she was murdered because of some bad dealings that I had. I mean, it's all absurd. Our story, my sister's kids and myself, our story never changed. Theirs has changed 25 times.
Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, you had a solid alibi. you've told me multiple times you were at the Costco in Livonia getting gas.
Correct.
And the minute they called and said that they needed you to take a polygraph test, you were actually driving elsewhere.
It was the next day. They asked me to take a polygraph test, which I've never taken one in my life. I was on 696, and I said, take a polygraph test. Where do you want me to do that? And there's a state police post at Coolidge and 696. I turned around, and I was there within 15 minutes, and I went and took it. Like, I didn't even think about it. The fact that they still won't take a polygraph test means a lot to me.
Yeah.
But everything points to them.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. This is not like some new revelation. I could see 100 people in Grosse Pointe. Everyone knows that they had something to do with the murder.
Yeah. But now it's about tearing apart their credibility, right? And
Well,
taking apart all of the things that they claim is the reason why they didn't do it, right?
Well, there's just so many things. And over time, what happens is you see who does what. You see the people that are trying to solve it, and then you see the people that are trying to make sure that it's never solved. And that tells a lot of the story right there. I mean,
yeah.
Why would you not try to help and find out what happened to this lady if somehow, like, you wanted to find out what happened? Yeah. Unless you were trying to hide something. They asked Bill Matouk to put up a simple flyer saying that my sister was missing, which everyone in Grosse Pointe did, except he wouldn't do that.
And mind you, this was your family store. Your dad had given it.
Yeah. Bill and Rosemary and Hare, they paid nothing for it. The property, the inventory, the business, they were just given it. JoAnn and I wanted nothing to do with that.
What do you think JoAnn would want now? So we're almost 15 years out. Obviously, the podcast we're doing, I'm working closely with you guys. What do you think, like, our listeners and our viewers can do different to help us? And what do you think JoAnn would want out of all this?
She would want what we're doing, justice. That's all, and nothing more. Okay. She was not vindictive. I probably am, but she was never that way. I think she would want justice for her children and myself. I think that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us and showing us everything that kind of went on that night. And for those of you that are not Grosse Pointers, you know, this is the beautiful St. Paul's Catholic Church on the water. And this is JoAnn Matouk. And you've heard his story today on his accounts of that day. And hopefully the next time we talk with you, we're going to get a whole deep dive, right?
We need a federal grand jury. That solves everything.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Great.